Hello. There you
Hello.
are. I feel like I'm sitting far too close.
Can you hear me, Jess?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now? Maybe try to turn your volume up.
Oh my gosh.
Can you not hear me?
Jess, this worked so well yesterday.
Yeah. I'm sending you a message.
Hey?
I said, try to turn your
Yes,
volume
it's
up.
right up.
Oh, okay. That's weird. And you can't hear me.
Hang on, is that better?
I can hear you. Can you
Can you
hear
hear me
me?
now? Oh, there
Yeah.
we go. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yay. What
Yay!
happened?
Woohoo! That's awesome.
Okay.
Yay. I'm so glad. Sorry about that. Typical me with all my techno things. Oh,
Oh no, don't worry.
yes, thanks so much for me. Thanks so much for meeting today, and welcome to everybody who's come and joined us. It's so exciting.
Yeah,
We've been meaning
awesome.
to obviously do this for quite some time. Hey,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jude's 4 months. I think I planted the seed like a month ago, but we're here.
I know, I know. It's way overdue. Thanks so much. Really, really appreciate it. I think it's such a nice opportunity just to get to chat as a mom who's delivered with us and just had midwife-led care, and
Yeah.
just kind of chat to me, ask a few questions, and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
Seamus, Jude got someone keeping an eye on him.
So Lyle's got Jude, and they're busy watching the cricket highlights that we won. So hopefully that all works out, but it's not my problem.
Yes, guys. You've got half an hour to 45 minutes off.
Yeah. No, I need
Guys,
it.
awesome. Yeah, lovely. Well, Jess, I don't know. Obviously, guys, thank you for joining us. For anybody who wants to ask a question or anything like that, we can obviously see you guys coming on and that kind of thing. But what we're going to do is obviously I'm going to ask Jess some questions, and Jess is going to ask me some questions. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes. So, Jess, maybe can I start maybe?
Yeah, just to also jump in quickly, if you do want to ask questions,
Yes.
instead of putting it in the comment section, there's a little question mark within a little speech bubble on the bottom right. Put your questions in there,
Yes.
because then you can see it later.
Okay.
We'll lose it if it's in the comments, if anyone wants to ask a question. But
Okay,
yeah.
that sounds great. Thank you. Awesome. Lovely. Okay, so let's go. Okay, Jess. So obviously with Lucy, you had a hospital birth.
Yeah.
You ended up having a cesarean section, and then with Jude, you moved over to us, and you were determined, obviously, to have your VBAC. So at Grace Birthing Centre, you had midwife-led care. So I just wanted to chat to you. What was the main reason for your change across to midwife-led care?
So with Lucy, I really wanted a natural birth, and I didn't get it. I'm fully supportive of cesareans, obviously, when they need it, and if it's what you choose, that's completely up to you. But for me, I really wanted a natural birth, and I had everything going for me during my labor, but I just felt a bit rushed for time. And in that state of mind, I just kind of gave in. But I was so cross with myself afterwards because I didn't fight for myself. And I thought, this time, I don't think I'm
Yes.
going to have a third baby. And I thought, there's no one that's going to be a better advocate for myself but me. So I just felt like
Yes,
I
for
needed
sure.
to find the right team. And I don't even know, I think it was, I think someone told me about you, but I can't remember who. And then I spoke to Kelly, one of the moms that delivered, or she tried to deliver there at Grace. And she spoke
Yes, yes.
so highly of you guys, and I just thought, I'm going to try. And I was sold from like the first 5 minutes of meeting you guys. I was sold. I knew you guys
Wonderful.
as much as I did.
Yes, awesome, awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, your obviously both pregnancies, have been so unique, and different. How did you find the changeover, from the sort of midwife-led care model to sort of the doctor-led care? I think it's nice for moms to know who are kind of having currently and kind of in this sort of indecision, how did you find them different?
So doctor-led care, I completely felt confident in the fact that they were looking after me medically. But that was kind of where it started and stopped. What I found was different with you guys is that you gave me that exact care, but you also tapped into like me as a person, how I was carrying the baby, how I was handling it emotionally. And like midwife-led care, I can't compare like as a whole to everyone, but you guys really, really focus on building a relationship with us. You really, really care about the baby in our bellies as much as the mom carrying the baby, and it's just like it's much more intimate, and it's something that like really gave me such comfort. Sorry.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge event, hey, in a mom's life that it's I think just having someone that actually can relate in terms of even woman to woman level, so yeah, I'm glad that you felt that from us as well, Jess. That's awesome. So yeah, I don't know if you want to ask. Do you want to ask a question, or should we just carry on with you a little? Hey,
I'll ask a question. So a lot of people that have chatted to me about when I put up my story on Instagram about my birth experience with you guys, a lot of people ask me like, what is a birthing center and how is it different to hospital? And yeah, so that's always probably been a burning question I'd like to know as well. Like, how did you even start Great Birthing Center? Why did you want to start this? And maybe if you could just explain a bit about your facility to those that are watching that don't know.
Yeah, lovely. Well, yeah, thanks, Jess. It's a lovely question. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm a mom of 5. So I've been the mom. I had the Caesar. I also had the Caesar, which I was actually looking back now. I've been so grateful for. Yeah. So I was a mom who was in the system, the institution. So a mom that went through the process of it. And also just felt like, just like you were saying just now, there was just a lack, just more in terms of the love and the emotional side, and maybe the time side, just in terms of just being able to having the liberty to kind of ask questions and things like that. And then obviously the professional side was also a factor as well. We'd been in government, and it's mainly, I don't know, for those of you that don't know government very well, it's actually mainly midwife-led for the volume of patients that you're actually dealing with. There's just not enough doctors to kind of go around, So we would deliver as midwives. We'd kind of have 12 deliveries in a night, and you'd be running from one head on perineum to the next. But it was terrible because you were literally like trying to get the mom off the bed to kind of get the next mom onto the bed before she delivered in the passage kind of thing. So it was great just in terms of, there was not a lot of interventions because, the labor just kind of progressed and was kind of, the mom was brought in last minute, but the care was terrible afterwards because it was kind of like, okay, mom, you're on your own type of thing. And then also then moving across to the private sector, obviously being mainly doctor-led, there was just a lot of interventions, and that's a thing that's very important for women to understand, is that natural birth is such a fragile, delicate process, and there's such a balance of hormones and when you come and you intervene in this beautifully natural thing, it kind of just knocks things out of sync, and that's where things go horribly south. And that's why we have the Caesar rate that we do, because it's kind of like you're in the system and they're just trying to move things along and not giving labor and birth the time that it actually needs. Obviously within the safety and within the safety of mom and baby obviously being well. So Yeah, this place is actually a bed and breakfast. And I said to my husband, Warwick, I've wanted to do this for years. Can't we just take this leap of faith and just do it? You know, we've been in the mom and baby space for so many, 15 years. So he said, okay, well, let's try. So we literally 150 birds later. And,
Wow.
you know, we really feel like we've managed to hit that middle ground in the sense of not an interventionist kind of approach, but a very caring approach. So we've managed to kind of bring the best of both worlds into Grace Birthing Centre. So yeah, I mean, we obviously love it. The people that are here are just as passionate as I am about it. They love moms and babies.
Yes.
We've obviously got 3 midwives, 3 doulas, and you know, everyone's just on track. And we've just seen this natural birth thing work over and over again. It's like, just leave it. Just
Yeah.
leave it and let
Yeah.
it go. Let labor start spontaneous. You know, when you allow things to be, that's when things go like they should, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
that's a little bit of that. Let me ask you a question.
okay.
Okay. Okay. So tell us about obviously your birth with Lucy. It landed up being a cesarean section. And then how was your actual birth? How was that different to your birth with Jude here? Obviously you had your normal birth here with Jude.
Yeah.
And
You
how
mean
was that different to... Sorry, I lost you there for a sec.
do you mean my labor? The difference between the 2 labors, or
Yes. Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
So
just your labor, birth, and care, I guess.
okay. So with Lucy, I carried full term. I went to 40 weeks 1 day. A doctor wanted to
Okay.
do an induction on 40 weeks, and I said no, because
Well done.
I could feel things happening, and I just wanted it to be all natural. I didn't get anything put it in my body, and
Yes, awesome.
yeah. So then some things were happening, and I just waited. I think it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I went into labor, but I started bleeding as well, which I didn't know was normal. So I called the hospital, and obviously I had to go in and get checked. And while I was there, they said, you're actually in labor. And I said, well, I don't feel anything. But they said, so you have to stay here. You can't go back home. And I wanted to go back home. Like, I would have loved to have just gone
Yes.
back home. I wasn't in pain. I didn't even know I was in labor. Like, I was so early on. And they even said to me, well, your husband, you're
Yes, yes.
in labor. Well, not in labor. I was in labor. They could see the contractions going. But they said, you're not bad enough for your husband to stay with you. So he has to go. So they sent Lyle home, which was the second. I didn't want that. Anyway, I was left.
Terrible.
Yeah, I was left alone to labor for like maybe 6 hours, and by then the contractions had started, and I had set up my room. I'd put my diffuser on, and I was bouncing on my ball, and I was like trying to like stay in the Zen mode. But like every now and then, I'd have a nurse come and turn on the lights and like stick her hands in me and see how far I've gotten. It just wasn't the idea of what I thought it would be, and I didn't have Lal there, and it just, and then I suddenly started shaking, and the nurse was like, well, let me check how far you are, because you shouldn't be shaking this early on. And she checked me, and it was like, you're 7 centimeters, I'm the only midwife here, you can't give birth by yourself. And like, she immediately put me into like this frantic mode of like, I can't stop this, what's happening, you know? And so she said, oh, your husband, come back now. And I was like, give me my epidural. Because I was scared. So I just went into panic mode, like full on. And then by the time I got my epidural, I stopped dilating, which subsequently my doctor said that can happen. But I didn't know that could happen. If I had known that would have happened, I would have waited a bit longer. Anyway, so I stopped dilating. He gave me an hour. He broke my water, and then he gave me another hour. And I still hadn't dilated, so he put his arm on my shoulder and said, my dear, we have to do a cesarean. And at that point I had been poked and prodded and like invaded, and I just felt like no one was really like trying to like push for my natural that I wanted. And I was tired at that point. I mean, at that stage it's no time to ask a woman in labor like to make big decisions. And I just felt like I was so cross with myself, because I was like, okay, let's just do it. And that's why with Jude, I wanted it to be the complete opposite. So I waited. I went to full term again with Jude. You guys said there's no due dates, it's a due month, which made me feel like, okay, I don't have to worry about the dates. And then I think I carried, it was 39 weeks, 6 or 7 days. And then I went into labor, but like it started fast. Like I felt the very first contraction, I was really bowled over and like just like moaning. And it was lovely. Yeah, no, by the time I got to you, I could barely, yeah, you must think I'm crazy the way I was screaming.
Oh, we see it all the time.
But what's so weird is that I remember myself screaming, but it's not like a screaming that I'm out of control. It was like a guttural roar. Like it was just the way it is. Like it wasn't like I was screaming because I was scared or in too much pain. It was just what my body needed to do to deal with each contraction at a time. And I had Bronwyn and Barley. Yeah, I had Bronwyn the doula and Barley, one of the midwives, both WhatsApping me. And when I couldn't, I gave the phone to Lyle, and I was in the shower on my all fours trying to like deal with it. And then I said, no, I need to come.
That's normally when the phone kind of gets handed to the husband. That's normally when we know, oh, it's time that she comes in now.
Yeah, and I think
when you
sorry, carry on.
You go for it. You go.
I was just saying, I think one of you had said to Lyle that you were setting up, so we mustn't rush there. So Lyle, without me knowing, had took a detour all over Durban to get me to the center. And by the time I was straight to the birthing room. But what was so nice about the difference between hospital and you guys, I walked into the labor room that I was laboring in, and the lights were dim. I had fairy lights on. I had music playing. You had put the diffuser on. The space was quiet and calm. You didn't ask me questions. You just put me in a spot that I wanted to be, and you just were with me. And Bronwyn, with each contraction, was helping me, and you and Mbali checking on me. And I think you guys only checked me like dilation-wise once I was in the bath. Hey, I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But yeah,
labor. Yeah. And that it plays such a huge role, and people just undervalue the huge impact that the environment plays in that. The very thing that you had with the very clinical environment, and like you 7 centimeters, and there's panic, and there's the very thing that you need in order for that oxytocin to flow. That's obviously the love hormone, the contraction hormone, the breastfeeding hormone. That's the hormone that you actually, the same hormones that actually got baby in, need to get baby out. Yeah. So the environment plays such a huge role. And I don't think like moms actually realize that when a mom is feeling calm and relaxed, and she feels safe and private and all of those things, it has a huge role to play. I mean, look at how the first one, things just kind of stopped, why did that actually happen? So when you're already in the active phase of labor, I mean, that's you're already way long, you're right down the line, Yeah. So environment is such a huge role to play. And I think, we don't like emphasize that enough. We kind of just think it's airy fairy, but it's actually not at all. It's a major factor, So, were you quite scared, Jess, to deliver out of the hospital? Obviously, we live in a society where obviously birth has been highly medicalized, where it's kind of seen as such a medical condition, that you kind of need treatment for, and it's kind of lost the value of this being such a normal physiological process. Digestion is such a normal bodily function. Like, so birth is as well. Your body's meant to do what it's doing, So were you quite nervous to kind of, because obviously moving to the birth center idea, it's kind of going very much against the grain, Yeah. So how did you feel about that? And did you think that us as midwives, that we were adequately prepared and, all of that kind of thing? Did you feel like you were in good hands?
I had no doubt that you guys could handle it. It was me that I was nervous about. Because in hospital, you've got the backup. Like, if you need that epidural, you know that it's there. Whereas you guys, I think, you guys stop at like maybe the TENS machine, like that's probably the most you do, or like maybe an injection or something. I'm assuming. I just know you don't do epidurals. So for me, that whole factor of if it's too sore, I'm either going to say, oh, I need to opt out and go to hospital, or I just have to like grin and bear it and go through it. So I think for me, it was this. I was scared of the pain, but because I got the epidural of Lucy before I was actually in proper pain, I didn't know what that pain felt like. But when I actually felt the contractions for real, like while I was at your center, it was nothing I couldn't. It was intense. Let me not underplay it, but it wasn't something that made me feel gonna die. It was something I knew my body was meant to be doing, and I was able to handle it. And yeah, so I wasn't. I knew you guys were capable, like absolutely, and I felt. If anything, I actually think I felt more comfortable in the environment with you guys as the dream team, which I like to call you, that I did at hospital, because you don't know what midwife you're going to get at hospital. Your doctor might not be on call. At least with you guys, every time I came for a scan, there was not just one of you sitting in my appointments with me. It was 2 or 3 of you at a time. I had a full-on session with the doula, so like I knew you guys personally. By the time I had given birth, I knew who I was going to get, and I knew we'd formed that connection. And I felt so like I was excited to give birth at Grace, actually, and scared of the pain, but more excited.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, it's how it should be. You know, I think there's such a stigma out there about you know, and the way you see it on the movies, and about this woman sort of screaming like that, and you. This is hectic. You actually can't manage. But you know, out of the 150 moms that have delivered with us, you know that only 3 of them have been transferred because they can't cope with the pain.
Wow.
And I think it's about moms educating themselves, Jess, and about actually realizing just like the whole process of going with it, and actually the hormones that support you. Like in the process, you know, that when your body gets to a point where it's not coping with the pain, that there's natural endorphins that are being produced, and there's the you know, all that natural stuff that actually helps you to cope. And I mean, you remember you kind of almost getting out of the zone, you know, and it's such a pity, because hospital moms don't manage to get into that sort of zone, because they're just so, there's just, this environment is just so clinical. But you know, you're able to just get into the zone with those, really taking in those hormones and those endorphins and all of that, and you're actually able to kind of check out, and that's your body's natural way of actually coping. So the whole idea that birth, I mean, obviously, as you said, it is owie, but it is something that God has made where you can cope with it. Your body's actually made to handle it, you know. So that's pretty radical.
And out of those 150 births, how many have been successful natural births? Do you know the number?
Lovely. Yeah, so at the moment we're sitting on 86% of moms that have delivered vaginally. Yeah, so out of, so 14% have landed up being transferred and have landed up having cesarean section. And we hate it. And that's why we're in the process also with the Department of Health, just to put a theatre on site and all of that kind of thing. So that's going to be quite exciting. That's great. So that we keep that contact with the mom. But obviously, you know, 15%, it's actually the World Health Organization, that's their recommendation is 15% for countries worldwide. So we're sitting on a 14%, which is the below average. Which is great. We obviously, Jess, we are quite particular about the moms that we choose. Obviously, we need to be, you know, realistic about who we are in terms of our profession. You know, we can't even risk a mom and baby's life. So safety is of paramount importance. So every time moms come for scans or for screenings and all of that kind of thing, we obviously always just ticking the boxes in our minds in terms of being that healthy, low risk mommy, you know, and obviously in terms of the transfers, because I know that's also something, you know, in terms of moms and being anxious about emergencies and transfer and that kind of thing. You know, so we obviously have this history with the mom where we know, like right from the get-go, that this mom is a healthy, low-risk pregnancy. So we know when we're going into a birth that the hemoglobin levels are good, the platelet counts, we know the blood work is good, we know that this mom's been absolutely fine. So when it comes to even a transfer, you know, you kind of think, transfer, it's so stressful, and da. And, you know, while it isn't nice to kind of get in the car and to drive a kilometer down the road to the hospital and that, it's not like critical in the sense that midwives are also we're not, you know, we train to actually handle emergencies. If there's a postpartum, if there's a hemorrhage, or if there's, you know, whatever it is that comes up, we actually train to be able to handle those emergencies, to stabilize a mom if need be before transfer. But there's never ever been a situation that's been, you know, like, hectic, you know. It's always been like a mom's pushing for 3 hours. She's given it her best shot. She's tired now. Right. You know, we all know, that it's kind of like we're at that point now where we need to make the call, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, like just down the road. So it's not that far either.
Yeah.
And
sorry, also just to mention.
Sorry.
No. Also just to mention, the mom does see a doctor. Sorry, can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, at the 36 weeks, the doctor does do a once over with the mom, so there is that sort of connection and relationship, and then obviously that doctor's on call, you know, the whole time during labor. We obviously keep the doctor posted for our private patients, and then we get a list in terms of an allocation list for our St. Mary's Hospital for our government patients. So we know who the doctor is on call. We've got a cell phone number. We can contact them directly, etc. So obviously all of those kind of systems are in place, you know, to make sure. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this without having that in place.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then, I was going to ask you, can I ask you another question? Okay. So obviously I was going to go into just in terms of your normal birth and your Caesar. You're obviously just in terms of recovery and in terms of care straight after the birth. Like how did you find the difference between the two?
Cesarean was obviously because I'd had an epidural. I couldn't move for like a good 12 hours. I think it was 12, but it was like a long time. And obviously with the natural birth, I think I held Jude on my chest in the bath for like 40 minutes while we waited for the placenta and all of that, and then to just like soak it up. And I literally got up, got straight into the shower, and then I went and lay on the bed for the stitches. And then also like with the cesarean, I couldn't do skin to skin with Jude straight away, which I got to do that with with Lucy. I couldn't do that with Lucy, but I got to do that with Jude. So that was big. Recovery wise, I think physically, I recovered a lot faster with the natural birth than the cesarean, but I think mentally I didn't prepare myself, which was my problem, because I was like, vaginal birth, it's built for that, to push the baby out, I'll be fine. But like I didn't factor in the fact that I might have stitches, what it might feel like, even things like sex after giving birth. Like there's just so many factors where I didn't in my mind prepare for. So I think mentally I battled more with my than my cesarean, but physical, I think my recovery with the natural was much easier, and I was more mobile, and to me that was something that I wanted to experience. So even now my cesarean scars, it's still numb, it's still sore every now and then. I don't know if that's ever going to go away, but like now 4 months in, I'm fine down there.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's built for that. So yeah, I'm glad I got to experience both, because I'm someone who can obviously tell people what it's like to have both. And
yeah, and
yeah,
I mean,
next time I want to have natural, definitely.
yeah. I mean, how's Jude? I mean, the big thing is they say, oh no, with this previous Caesar, you can't have a baby bigger than 3.5 kgs, and then you go, boop, push out a 3.9 kg baby, like no problem for you.
I mean,
I
said
think
to
that's
Lyle, I said to Lyle, like, how is my vagina going to know that I'm pushing out a 2 kg baby as opposed to a 4 kg baby? Surely both are going to hurt. So I pushed that aside, because I just thought to myself, no matter what size he is, it's still going to be the same, really. I'm not going to know the difference. So yeah.
And it's amazing, you know, if you've got a healthy low risk pregnancy, you don't have like gestational diabetes, and you don't have these things, you know, the chances are that your body's not going to make a baby that's too big for you to push out, you know.
Yeah.
But just elaborating on the fact of skin to skin, you know, it's another thing that is so underplayed in a very medicalized clinical setting, you know.
Yeah.
You know, having a on your chest, you know, they can hear your heartbeat. So after a birth where there's adrenaline, you've been secreting adrenaline, baby's adrenaline, there's a whole lot. Putting baby onto your chest, they can hear the heartbeat. So it helps them to actually regulate their own heart rate. It increases oxygen saturation. It stabilizes their blood pressure. It helps with all of these things, which are so undervalued, you know, even delayed cord clamping, you know, that oxygenated blood that kind of pulsates through the placenta and into baby after delivery. Like, those kind of things are so important, and you know, they're not valued enough, you know, but just in terms of evidence-based, you know, there's evidence-based information that is being neglected in a very clinical setting, in a very medicalized setting, you know. So yeah, it's yeah. Obviously, you know, I'm so glad that you just got to experience it, and you know, just get up afterwards. Obviously, you know, there is the valid point of you saying, you know, you can't exactly get up and sort of have a jog, you know.
Yeah.
A baby, it just comes from vagina, and that is going to take time.
I think I probably messaged you about 5 times in like a space of 2 weeks, saying like, is my vagina meant to be doing this? Is it supposed to look like this? Because that's exactly another example of how we're not prepared enough as women to know how a natural birth is supposed to go. We just know it either comes out the sunroof or the front door, you know. We don't know, like, afterwards what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel, how long the recovery is going to take. And I mean, like, a place like you guys, you prepped me so well in terms of like feeling like I was empowered with my body and stuff, and like, and even like you say, like, you value the importance of the holistic picture of giving birth, the cord clamping, delayed cord clamping, the skin to skin. I mean, the fact that Lyle was obviously with me through my whole labor, but even the fact that he was in the very room as soon as I gave birth. Jude was on my chest. We did the delayed cord clamping. Then we delivered the placenta. Or did we do? Yeah, the placenta was still in me before you delivered it. The placenta.
Yes.
I can't. It's like a bit vague in my mind, but yeah. And then straight after that, like, I gave Jude to Lyle, and Lyle was right there next to me while I was getting stitched, and he was having Jude on his chest. And then we both went straight to the room, like, and we slept in the same room that night. Lyle didn't go home. Lyle got to stay in the room with me. And I mean, that whole thing, like, a woman's supposed to give birth, and then she's literally, that very first night, she might be pumped with adrenaline and all those things, and maybe drugs as well. Maybe she can't move her legs because she's had an epidural. Now the husband goes home. Mom's got to stay there with the baby. And like, I remember with Lucy, I kept like nodding off, like almost dropping her on the floor. They had to put the bed railings up in the hospital bed because I was meant to look after this baby, but I drugged up. Whereas like with you guys, Lyle was there with me the whole time, and we did it together. And it's so lovely that you guys offer that environment for a couple, because it's so needed. Like, it was chalk and cheese hospital compared to you guys.
It's so critical. You know, this is your life partner, you know, and this is the person that you trust in. He's your anchor, you know, he's your advocate, you know, and it's important. Like, they've got such you know, they can stand the gap for you, you know. But yeah, I was just thinking back the other day to Lal. There were times where he was like feeling quite overwhelmed, and because you'd say to him, okay, Lal, step out. Step out, you have a little walk, you know. Yeah. Step out, get some fresh air a little bit. And then, of course, the contraction would be, no! Everything's charging back to you. Oh my gosh. So, I think it's so good. Yeah, I mean, it's so good for also a man to see, you know, what a woman actually goes through, you know, for their child. You know, in the olden days, they just kind of drop their wives off at the front door and kind of pick them up 3 days later. But I think there's been so much more of an appreciation of like what the women actually do and being that support. And even last night we had a beautiful delivery, just with the dad was just kissing her and loving her and saying, my baby, you can do this, you've got this. And it was the most beautiful, calm, peaceful birth. And it was I know it's hard to be, Jess, honestly. It really yeah.
There's something very special about the bond when you birth with your partner right there. And I think being in a room with cesarean, I suppose, with the team, I think while I was lying on the bed with Lucy, at one point I counted how many people were in the room with us, and the room was tiny, and there were 15 people in the room. And yeah, they all had their very vital jobs, but like, I just felt like a lab rat on a table. And there was, when Lucy came out of my tummy, the doctor held her over. Like, I wanted to cry, but I looked at Mal, and we had our little moment. But then before you know it, the baby's handed off there. They're starting to stitch me up. Lal's disappeared. And it's just, there's so much more that you can get from a birthing experience. Even now they're moving towards like gentle cesareans and stuff like that. Something I completely believe in. If you have to end up with a cesarean, you know, see what's happening down there. Do the skin to skin. Let your husband stay in the room with you. You know, like there can be so much more can be done to make birth the way it should be, regardless of natural or cesarean. I feel like you guys have hit the nail on the head about really focusing on what's important about the holistic picture of birth, even if it ends in
yeah. Oh no, that's awesome, man, Jess. Yeah, so I'm just trying to see what else we had here. The one thing. Yes, sorry.
Do you want me to go first?
You go.
Okay.
Yeah, you go.
What advice can you give to a woman who wants to birth naturally, but she's too scared?
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, we did briefly touch on it, but moms need to get educated, you know, and then just need to empower themselves, Jess. You know, I think, as we said, you know, it's not as bad as the world has kind of made it out to be, as the movies have made it out to be. As we said, 3 in 150 have literally had beautiful, you know, have had to, you know, be transferred because of pain, but the rest have actually managed and coped so well. But it's when a woman's actually understood and sort of surrendered to the process, and also relied on those natural opioids and those endorphins, you know, it's really not as bad as what it's made out to be, you know. And God has made it in such a beautiful way, you know. Yeah, so, and also obviously the other thing is, if moms are nervous, they shouldn't be with someone who makes them more nervous, you know, because, you know, if someone's saying to you, oh no, this baby's too big, your pelvis is too small, you know, so choosing a provider is such a critical part of that, you know, choosing the right provider, because, you know, if you're going to choose a person that's going to make you believe, which you actually can, that you can do it, you're going to actually believe in yourself enough that, actually, you know, I can do this. And then when you do, awesome.
Exactly.
You know, I'm that VBAC. Well, you know, we've had the cesarean and I've been bitterly disappointed, but then had the VBAC and just been like, yes, there's so much more to it just being at the birth, you know. It kind of, this is something that established a mom and baby for so much more than just the birth, you know. This is kind of like, we're talking about her life here and how this impacts her psychologically, emotionally. Like there's so much more depth to it than it just being the day of birth, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, women just need to get educated. There's so much on social media. I mean, we know this, you know. They just need to find information that they can use to empower themselves, to stand up for themselves, to advocate for themselves. You know, they don't have to submit to a system, you know. They can actually say, like, actually no. And you know what, they're in charge. And I think that's what women need to realize, is that and you know, they don't have to, they are the CEO of their birth. This is their bodies, this is their baby. And they need to take birth back, you know, because it will impact them for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, up until my birth with Jude, I was depressed about my birth with Lucy, and I kept saying to myself, oh, but she's healthy and I'm healthy, but it's not good enough. I think we limit ourselves. We say, oh, at least your baby's fine, at least you're fine. That's not the point. The point is that, like, some women don't have it and it's fine, but some women have that innate, like, desire to give birth naturally, and if you can't tap into that part of your womanhood, it plays on you forever. Like, it's so important.
Absolutely.
And, I can definitely say as well, you need to find the right team. The moment your gut's telling you something that's not right here, or the doctor's just trying to appease you or whatever, you got to follow your gut. Find your team. Like Grace, keep calling you guys. You guys are the dream team, and you are. I can't speak for how you.
Yeah. Oh, shame. Yes, and I mean, it's as you say about the gut, you know, your gut. And you know, so even as a mom and as a woman, there's like that sixth sense that you have where you just have that feeling, you know. And you know, it's never ever too late. And I'm not saying come to and have midwife-led care. It's never too late to change your provider, whether it's to a different gynae that's very, like, has the highest C6. And I asked your gynae, like, what's your statistics? What's your cesarean section rate? What, you know, you know, so it's, you know, and don't be scared to ask those questions. Like, those are good, honest questions that moms deserve answers to. Do you know what I'm saying? So so I just it's all about empowerment, man. And, you know, women need to just take their births back, you know, and just, it was something we're so passionate about, and we really feel like we're managing to reach people. We're hoping through our different platforms to try and educate moms, to try and get them just aware of stuff. You don't have to be cut, you know, like during birth. You know, this woman today delivered. Yeah, sorry.
No, carry on. Today she delivered.
Even this first-time mom that delivered today, beautiful, slow pushing, stretched that perineum so nicely, and delivered intact. First-time mom, not even a suture that we had to do. But the baby was 3 kg, so it was a lot smaller than Jude. But delivering intact. I mean, and back in hospital, we would just kind of like cut those moms. And, you know, for us, even as health professionals, we've had to get ourselves out of that system because it's just so wrong. You know, it's so wrong. And doctors shouldn't, or nurses, anyone shouldn't just be cutting. Like, those are things that need to be discussed and chatted through with moms. You know, it's obviously. Yeah, anyway, something that we could go on for days.
Hands off with me, which I actually really liked. Like, I remember every now and then you and Bali would come and check on me, and at one point I was mid-contraction and I heard you say, I think we need to move her to the bath. So thank goodness for that. you guys didn't touch me at all. While I was in the bath and you wanted to, my waters hadn't broke and you wanted to check how far I was. And I think you did one or two cervical checks while I was in the bath. But even during my labor, you didn't touch me. You went down there checking. I think the first time you did, Jude's shoulder was a bit stuck and the cord was around his neck. And you just got in there, took it over, and then you stood back and you let me do my thing. It's like, that's how sometimes good care is standing back and doing nothing until you need to. And I think you guys,
I think, you know, it's the big thing moms need to realize, it's not a midwife or a doctor delivering your baby. You know, it's you delivering your baby. You know, you're the one who's pushing that. We there to kind of assist and, you know, help, you know, in the little things here and there, and to kind of clean up afterwards. That's our kind of wonderful role. But, you know, you're the ones that are pushing the baby out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. It's giving birth back to the moms, you know, because that's actually really what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely. How are we doing?
I mean,
are you wanting to ask a question? I know.
I don't know if we should.
I do see there's one question here. I'll read it out to you, Bex.
It's,
Kelia, I think I'm pronouncing that right. It says, I'm type 1 diabetic, and every doctor I talk to says that C-section is my only way to go. I really want to have a natural birth, and I've only heard the best about Grace. Please give me some hope that I can birth naturally.
Definitely. I mean, even with diabetes, even with bigger babies, moms still can deliver vaginally. And you know, I think the difficulty in South Africa is that we're living in the private sector. More specifically, we have an 80% cesarean section rate, which isn't. I think doctors look for any kind of opportunity that they can to cut. To be honest with you, if I was so keen on a normal birth and I was in the clinical environment, that in terms of the private sector, I'd probably go to government. And it's probably because I'm familiar with government and that kind of thing, but I probably would go to government because I know that I'd have a better chance there. You know, we also in government, we would deliver diabetic mums all the time. You know, it was only kind of very, very rarely that we would kind of call the doctors in for stuff. I mean, you know, very rare. So, I mean, I would really encourage her to find that provider that, you know, she can go to. That, you know, obviously we'd love to take on higher risk moms, but we just can't. We have to be realistic. And especially because we're not a facility yet. You know, if we had a theatre that was close by that we could, you know, get to, you know, quickly, although we do get places quickly, but when we're dealing with healthy and low risk, you know, you're not so much on the clock in terms of time. But I would definitely look around and find the right provider that is going to give her the best opportunity. And the other thing is staying at home, guys. Like you said, Jess, just with Lucy, like going in, you know, because there's a bit of bleeding or a bit of this or a bit of that. You know, sometimes when you go into the hospital setting too soon, you just encourage intervention, you know. Your first intervention is actually walking out the door of your house, you know. Stay at home. Yeah, stay at home as long as possible, you know, and then go when baby's head is on perineum, you know, like when you're starting to feel that edge to bear down, then, you know, take that gap and go then, you know, because it just goes, things go south when it's when you intervened on, you know. Shane, someone asking a question there.
Yeah. Women who test high risk for preeclampsia, is that considered too high risk for a birthing center?
Yeah. So obviously at this stage, preeclampsia is a high risk. So for those of you that don't know what preeclampsia is, it's high blood pressure in pregnancy that normally starts after the 20th week of gestation. And it is risky, although it can be very, very well controlled on medication. But look, preeclampsia can go to eclampsia very quickly, which means it moves from kind of just kind of being well in control to kind of fitting, and mom having sort of seizures and stuff. So that's why, like, again, being at a birth center, you need to be able to have a theatre close by. Preeclampsia, there's also higher risks with baby. You know, there's higher risks of stillborn. You know, they like to induce moms early as well that have preeclampsia because, you know, the risks are that much higher with, you know, with a mom that has got a high blood pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Do any other ladies have any questions? I think I did see one earlier about how do you start writing a birth plan, like if they're wanting a natural birth. I don't know if that's something that would be in your...
Yeah, I think there's a lot of birth plans that are out there, but if you're going to a hospital setting, the chances of your birth going according to the plan isn't very high. So have a birth plan, but then have a plan mentally. Like if you are delivering in a hospital, like plan for plan B and even a plan C, you know. About 95% of the time here, moms normally get what they want, you know, in terms of, you know, the setting that they want, the music that they want, all of that kind of thing. But, you know, in a hospital, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I've delivered 5 babies in hospital, so I am aware of, as a mother, and I'm not trying to just motivate this on the professional level because we have a birthing center, but I just know that when you do go into hospital, in terms of kind of having these ideals of a birth plan, you know, the kind of doctor will kind of look at it and take it with a pinch of salt, you know, and kind of still carry on doing, you know, their own thing. But again, yeah. But do look on the internet. If you Google birth plan, you know, you should be able to come up a lot. Like we've had moms come in with lovely templates, and they've been able to tick, you know, what they've wanted, like episiotomy versus tear. They've been able to kind of say what they want and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I'd encourage you to try and look online for one.
Okay.
Is there more?
Someone said I joined so late, so you may have already covered this, but when do the moms get transferred to hospital for C-section at Grace? I assume they make an educated decision before it becomes a full-on emergency. Yeah, that was actually one of my questions I didn't get to, so yeah.
Yes, so obviously, you know, in terms of emergencies, there's kind of like the green zone, the orange zone, as well as the red zone. So a mom, the chances are her going from green with a healthy low risk pregnancy, from green to kind of red, it's very, you know, it's very unlikely that they'll just switch like that to red. And as midwives, we are trained to deal with it if it, like there's a dystocia, for example, if the shoulders get stuck. You know, we train to be able to handle those kinds of things, those immediate emergencies. But if we see, so for example, that the mom is getting into the orange zone, just in terms of like baby is getting distressed, for example, and there's interventions that we can do. Obviously, we normally put up a line and we give the mom oxygen. So we can actually, while we're in that orange zone, we can try and navigate back to the green zone. And then if it just isn't kind of getting to that back and it kind of starts moving, then we start making a call that, listen, you know, we need to obviously make the call. You know, there's such a there's not a fine line when it is showing that things aren't right. And it's also, you know, we're talking about a mom having that gut feel. Midwives have that gut feel as well, and sometimes you can just feel this isn't going like it should, and then you know, it's important to make that call. And yeah, and it's important, as we've spoken about the backup, about all of those things actually being in place, so that as you move, there's literally people that are waiting, you know, at the hospital to kind of take over.
And I also think it's important to mention, from what my experience with you guys, all of your associated doctors are pro-natural. So it's not like, oh, you're going to hospital and you're going to get a cesarean. It's not the case. Even with Kelly, she went to hospital and still got her natural. So your doctors are associated and they're pro-natural, and they're still going to try and honor your wishes as best as they can. Obviously, cesarean, it's because it actually has to be in it. Then at least you've experienced your labor, which is second best prize, I suppose, if you end up with cesarean.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Oh, Shane, thank you. She's saying thank you. Nice. Green eye.
So I think we've been at it for almost an hour, so I don't know if you want to end off, but from my side, I just say thank you so much for sitting down with me, and I don't know, you're very new to your Instagram platform, and I'm trying to get you there. Just because I feel like your facility is something that everyone needs to know about. I feel like you're like honestly a hidden gem in Durban, and I just really want people to know about you guys as a facility, but to meet you as a person. And I mean, Rebecca is the perfect example of all the other midwives and the doulas. You guys are all very similar in your personalities, your love for people, your care for pregnant moms and for the babies. And yeah, to me, this is what I've wanted. I've just wanted to showcase you, and that's what we're doing. So I'm really grateful for you making the time, and yeah, glad finally.
Well, thank you for trusting us. Trusting us. We don't take for how do you say it? I'm not saying. But every mom that comes to us, we know that they trust us, and we don't take that lightly. We take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And we do appreciate it. And we will really try and support you and love you in the way that you want to be loved and supported. Our hearts, we can say, are truly for the moms, and that's why this whole facility is what it is, because we really do have a heart for the moms, and we don't like what we're seeing. We're sad. We're sad about what we're seeing out there, which is it's not good. But yeah, I'm wondering, should we wrap up, Jess? Otherwise, it's 5 to 4 now. We actually do have a mom as well.
Yeah. So if you joined you late, you've got a mum in labour. Sorry, yes, you've got a mum in labour.
Yes, but not yet. So good.
Okay, but for those of you who joined late, I'm going to save this onto our grids, so you can watch it in bits and pieces later, and you can find it on our grids. We'll post it up probably a bit later today or tomorrow. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and thanks so much, Bex, for agreeing to do this. And yeah, and I definitely think you should definitely do some more sessions like this, even just by yourself or with your doulas and midwives, and just because there's so many questions women have, and you guys have such a good platform to share all your knowledge. But yeah, cool.
You're amazing. You're a wonderful mom, Jude and Lucy. Are very happy, very very lucky to have you.
Thank
you. You're our natural mom. Have been.
Thank you. Cool. Okay, I'll chat to you guys soon. Cheers.
Nice.
Bye.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Bye.